Maybe.
How you doing, Rod?
Getting there. Something. A little bit of something.
I hear you now.
Okay.
I
We're
see
just
you. I
gonna
hear you. Oh, you know what? It might be me. I've got one dot on my connectivity right now. Connection is unstable if you're okay. Oh, hold on now. Let me check my extension. Yeah. Yeah, my connectivity is going to pitch fits right now. All right. Are we all right for now?
think we might be. We'll just have to be real patient with each other.
Yeah. It's no, we've had a week of snow and it snowed another 9 inches today, and they're calling for ice and sleet. So them lines are doing like that. We have cable modem, but they still run the cable. I live in the Northeast. In the Northeast, it's an old part of town, so they still run the cable on the poles. They don't run it underground here.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We just upgraded to the fiber optic around here, so they're running it all underground now.
You think we would, but no.
But
All
how are
right.
you?
Looks like we got it. Go ahead.
I said, how you doing, my friend? I know we got a lot of delay here, but we're gonna make it work the best that we can.
I'm. Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. I'm going to have to run a connection to the modem in here one day.
Mm-hmm.
um, I'm doing all right. Thanks for coming on. Hopefully, we get through this stream. If you're tuning in and you're seeing us go in and out, um, the area I live in, and like a lot of places the area you live in, storms coming over, so Mike in and out. I apologize. I know that gets annoying. But
Okay, how is it now?
hey, I've got more dots. Better for now. I don't know how it's going to be, but at the moment, I see you and I hear you, and you know what? Let's not make any sudden movements.
Try it. Hold your tongue right because I don't want to mess this up anymore.
Oh, I got another bar.
Hey, there we go. There we go. That's all that
Oh, there it
matters.
went. Oh, I moved. Yeah, I've never had this. I haven't had this much trouble in years. This is like dial-up days.
Yeah, I guess all that snow's just got everything kind of in a little bit of a bunch, doesn't it?
Huh?
I said, I guess that the snow and all the storms have got everything in a little bit of a bunch, huh?
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure, like, connectivity and signal. Yeah, even my cell phone signal's been pretty weak here lately. Like all that snow, you just can't penetrate the towers. We've got like and then of course the ice and sleet today too. That ain't helping on the lines. And my Wi-Fi is just weak down here, I guess. Sorry for the inconvenience here, Rudd, and anybody watching. We're having some technical difficulties. Hopefully they get ironed out here soon. And Rudd got bumped again tonight. Hello.
Hey, is it working now?
I went and reconnected to the router. Rebooted
Okay.
it. Hey, we're still live. I
Okay.
didn't end the broadcast or I muted. All right. Hey, I can hear you. I can see you. I think we're okay for the moment. So we did lose our audience, so I hope they come back. But so I guess we can just talk for a moment.
So let it roll, dude.
I
Just
got
let
it.
it roll.
Hold on. Yeah. Yes. Oh. Okay.
Okay. Okay. I like it. This is a lot better now.
Yeah. Yeah. I can see you. I can hear you. We're not buffering. It's like we're having a conversation. It's almost like a
Heck yeah.
phone call.
Heck yeah. So
All
how you
right.
been, man? You been doing good?
I've been trying. This winter has really seized things up, man. You know, I say we're having a pretty hard winter, and I guess we are, especially parts of the country that don't get winter. But I, I think for us, this is actually what's supposed to be a normal winter. We just got pretty spoiled the past 4 or 5 years where it was like 50, 60 degrees
Mm-hmm.
in February. But
Yeah.
I grew up not too far from where you are right now. I'm from the Cumberland Plateau. I was born in Grossville,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
so I remember as a kid in Tennessee, winter. We still had winter. We had snow. Look, not like this, but we had snow and cold weather.
Yeah, yeah. This has been an
I never ice fished
extremely
before moving up north, but
Yeah, this has been an extremely cold winter. I don't remember a winter like this in a long time. And I can remember being a kid and getting a lot of snow, but it just was never like this brutally cold outside. Like this has just been, we've had what 3 weeks now where it's not got above like 40. And it's just not normally like that. You know what I mean? We usually have a stint of weather in the wintertime, where it's in the 50s and the 60s. And it looks like we're rolling up on that. I mean, it looks like spring maybe knocking on the door finally. We're gonna cross our fingers and knock on some wood. But it looks like it's getting there. We just gotta hope it does. It looks like it's gonna be in the 60s next week down here, which is good because I mean the backs of the pockets are starting to freeze and do all kinds of crazy stuff. So I'm ready for it to start warming up.
yeah, I'm ready for it to. I think I'm ready to. Well, I don't want it to warm up too much uh, tomorrow and into Sunday because I have an ice fishing trip and event planned. So
There you
it
go.
warms up too much. I don't want to go through. I did lose 60 pounds, but still,
Hey, dude, that's awesome. Good job.
Thank you. So, but I'm ready for winter. I bought a kayak last year, and I probably bought it at the worst time because there's shortages and. But I got one. I got one delivered. I only got to take it out 3 or 4 times, and then the cold came.
Mm-hmm.
By the time
Mm-hmm.
it finally got here, it took all summer for the thing to deliver.
Yeah.
There's nobody had any inventory last year. Fishing
Yeah.
supplies everywhere. You were kayaks, bait, pretty much everything. The shelves were clear. So I
Yeah.
got one last year. So I'm looking forward to this year. I'm going to try to do some of the kayak tournaments this year, and that's while we can understand each other, we can go ahead and vent about what we were talking about. That nobody was hearing us, so we were kept getting buffering up.
Mm-hmm.
You just were in, or actually, you just took yourself out of a kayak tournament because of a rule. Right now, you want to explain on that?
Yeah, so I was planning on fishing the Hobie BOS Open down on Watts Bar Lake. It's actually happening Saturday and Sunday, and I decided not to fish that tournament because when I got to reading through the rules, and always read through the rules, ladies and gentlemen, and it doesn't matter what kayak tournament you're getting into, read through the rules just to make sure you know everything. Even if you think you know everything, read through them. But one of the rules was that I could only use a metal catch board, which I'm fine with that rule. The rule itself isn't the big deal. It was kind of how the rule came about, and the fact of the board that I have now is actually a replacement for my metal catch board. And so what I did was I bought one of the polycarbonate or the carbonite catch boards. And so Catch came out with what is a polycarbonate board last year. I think I paid like 60, $70 for it. I did not get that thing for free. And so I bought that to replace my metal board. And then I sold my metal board to a guy because I thought I would never need it again. And come to find out in the Hobie kayak tournaments, you can only use an aluminum board, which again, it's not that big a deal, but it's kind of how the rule came about that I had a problem with. And so last year, I believe there was a Hobie on some lake. I'm not really sure which one, but they got some pictures of a guy who it looked like the side of his board was propped up on his kayak, and then the board bent to a point and then flattened out in the bottom of his kayak. Well, that bending of that board would make fish look longer than they actually are. And so instead of disqualifying that guy and stripping him of whatever, or going into an investigation about what happened there, they essentially just said, okay, it's cool. You get to stay where you're at in the tournament. I think he ended up finishing second or something like that. You get to keep your check, all that kind of stuff. But we're just going to totally change the rule where you can only use metal boards. And so, again, I understand the changing of the rule. It's, I'm behind that. It's just the fact of how the rule got changed. And anything that makes me go, I don't really want to spend $260 on, because that's what that entry fee was going to be for that tournament. And so I decided and opted out of fishing the Hobie, and I'm just going to fish the 2 local tournaments that are going on Saturday, and that I can use my polycarbonate catch board in. But the guy who was actually fishing in that tournament was using a hog trough, which is another brand. So for any of you guys that are watching this, listening, there's 2 main boards that most tournaments will accept. That's either Catch brand, which is KETCH, or hog trough. And the hog troughs are kind of synonymous with breaking and shattering and just not being a very good product. And so most tournaments have got rid of using hog troughs altogether and only accept Catch products. But Hobie took it a step further and said, not only can you just use a Catch product, but you can only use their aluminum variant within the Catch brand, because this guy got caught allegedly bending his board and making the fish a little bit longer than they actually were. So I don't know. I didn't like it. I said to myself, I'm not digging on that, and I can't get down with how they came to get that rule. And I said, I'm not going to fish the tournament. I'd rather fish the local stuff and be able to use my board and not have to worry about spending $260 on something I don't fully get down with. So yeah, that's that.
Yeah. Now, we talked earlier before we came in on that, and I just got a kayak last year, and I'm going to try to fish some of the tournaments here this year. I can't fish any in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania's rule: you can't have any, not even kayak. You can't have any tournaments during the spawn, because we can't bed fish here. It's illegal. Mm-hmm. So bass season doesn't open until June. So if I wanted to, if I wanted to do any of the tournaments, I'd have to buy the New Jersey license and fish in the New Jersey one. Bait fishing is legal in New Jersey. But I ordered because I was actually at the Cabela's or Bass Pro the other day, and I picked up a hog trough, and somebody told me, "Hey, you won't be able to use that in all of them." Oh, okay. And all they said was you need a catch board. Mm-hmm. Well, I ordered the catch board. It's on its way. It's supposed to be here tomorrow, I think is when they say. Excuse me. But I ordered the polymer one. Mm-hmm. One, it's cheaper. Plastic's cheaper than metal. Mm-hmm. And also, it's more mobile, I guess. But another thought I had with the polymer one is the polymer one is a little wider, actually. And also the metal one, the corners are sharpened, they're straightened. The polymer one, it's rounded, it's molded plastic. So I'm thinking, well, that won't dig in and scratch up my the gunnels of my kayak, or pull against the rudder mount or something. Because I know me, if it can happen, I'm going to break it.
You and me both.
So if they can be broken, I'm going to break it.
Yeah.
So I ordered the polymer one. Now I've looked at a couple of those polymer ones, and like the Catch brand. Now the hog trough, yeah, you can bend it. The Catch brand, you can run over it with your truck. Mm-hmm. You can't bend that. Mm-hmm. So I don't. And is it the Hobie kayak tournament? Aren't they sponsored by Catch?
I believe so. I would have to ask somebody that knows more about it than I do. And I kind of mentioned that in that video. I was like, I'm pretty sure. I don't want to sound like an idiot when I say this, but I was like, I'm pretty sure that they're sponsored by Catch. And I was like, if I was Catch, I would be like, y'all got to use all the products, not just one. But I mean, dude, it's one of those things. The biggest reason I got rid of my metal catch board was because the mobility of that catch board is crap when you're in a kayak. I mean, the thing does weigh. I mean, it probably weighed 3 pounds, which you're thinking, oh, Alex, quit being a quit being a sissy. 3 pounds isn't nothing. But when you're in your kayak, man, and you're trying to move around, you got a fish flopping around, you're trying to keep it on this board, 3 pounds is a lot. And also during summer tournaments, you got to dip that thing in the water every single time you use it because it gets so hot you can't touch it. I actually almost dropped mine one time because the sun was beaming down on it, and it got so hot that I turned around and grabbed it. And when I did, I kind of jumped back off of it because of how hot it was, and ended up getting it, had to dip it in the water. And so every time during a summer tournament, you got the threat of dropping that thing in the water. So if you drop an aluminum catch board in the water, it's going to sink like a rock. You drop those polycarbonate ones, they're not going to sink as fast. And I've also talked to a guy who said if you fill the back with foam, which again makes it more rigid, harder to break, he said fill the back with foam will actually make it more buoyant. So it'll float when you drop it in the water.
Mm-hmm.
And so, man, in a kayak, for me, mobility and something that floats is much more important to me than something made out of metal. You know what I mean? So,
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You would think now that that would be something that these manufacturers would have made already.
You would think
a floating board,
yeah.
like fill it full of foam, and I'm sitting here thinking, why didn't you fill it full of foam?
Yeah.
Why didn't you?
That is a weird concept. There's a lot of things in the kayak industry, like with as many advances as we've had in kayaks, like, there's only a few companies that make floating nets, and there's only a few companies that make like phone tethers and tethers for your equipment and stuff like that. I mean, luckily most of my rods and reels float. They're really light graphite. A lot of those graphite blanks, a lot of loose blanks, they float because they're so light. And so, if I were to flip over, most of my stuff isn't going to sink. But like, I don't know. It's weird. Kayak fishing is interesting to me. I mean, it's something that I do and I kind of got into, and I think we had a conversation about this before. I got into kayak fishing for the simple fact to show everybody all the wrong things to do so that people wouldn't have to do all the wrong things to figure it out. You know what I mean? And so the more and more I get into it, like there's just like little things that I'm like, man, I wish somebody would make this just like this way a little bit better, this way just a little bit better. And it's interesting though. I mean, there's a lot of guys that are out there doing crazy crap to their kayaks. You know what I mean? Like motors and graphs. There's one guy that me and my buddy were talking about. He runs 3 different graphs on his kayak.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of electronic. I mean, I run 3 graphs on my boat, and I only turn 2 of them on at any one time. So it's like I couldn't imagine having 3.
I say talking to him. I don't know him like I do you. But I commented on Tyler Anderson. Is his name?
Yeah, Tyler Reels. Yeah, Tyler Anderson. Yeah.
Yeah, Tyler's Real Fish. I commented on the other day, and I asked him, about, because I noticed he did a kayak video, and of course it was one he was giving away to somebody. So I asked him, I said, do you run anything on yours? And he said in a kayak, he doesn't really see if they're worth it.
Yeah, I'm kind of in that same boat. For me, kayak fishing is it's almost like purist. Like I view it almost like it's like the purest form of fishing, right? And so like for me, when I'm in my kayak, I only take a limited number of rods, a limited number of gear, and like I just go out and I just go fishing. Because to me in a kayak, it's just like it's everything that I want fishing to be. Up shallow, somewhere where no one else can get, flipping, pitching, frogging, throwing a spinnerbait, moving, grooving, that kind of fishing. And so for me, I don't invest a ton into electronics and stuff into my kayak. But on the other hand, I guess when you start getting into fishing these $260, $300, $400 tournaments, these big tournaments where 200 and 300 kayaks could show up, I guess you try to get every advantage that you can, and it just turns into just like anything else. If you enter a Bassmaster Open, you want to have every advantage you can get. Just like if you enter a Hobie Open, you want to have every advantage you can get. So I think that's why for me, kayak tournament fishing is probably, for the most part, always going to stay pretty like local and small group for me, just because that's what I enjoy. I enjoy the purity of that kind of format. So,
yeah, I was thinking the other day, like, I won't say I don't like it. I like the concept. And I don't begrudge anybody for if you can live your dream and make a living, I don't begrudge you for that. That's everybody's dream. But like the touring, the I guess you call it professional kayak anglers
Mm-hmm.
now, right?
Mm-hmm.
I always kind of thought like kayak and the kayak tournaments that come around as an alternative to that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So like,
Yeah, and it's interesting. It's developed into what it's developed into, right? And I think that's kind of even more what I'm getting at. Kayak fishing should be the affordable alternative to buying a bass boat. And even though
right,
I run an aluminum bass boat, and even then, my boat was expensive. I make payments on my boat. But if you were to go out and buy a glass bass boat, those guys are paying $90,000 for glass bass boats now. And so I always felt like the kayak was the ability for somebody to get off the bank, to enjoy fishing off the bank, but do it in a more affordable manner. And now you've got Hobies and even like my Old Town Autopilot. They're $5,000 and $6,000 kayaks. They're very, very expensive kayaks, and that is not realistic for a lot of people. $2,000, $3,000 is not even realistic for some people in the situations that they're in. And so when you start taking something that, like you say, it's supposed to be more of that almost pure form of fishing, that more rudimentary style of fishing, that ability for everybody to be able to do it, and you turn it into a rich man's game, it's just no fun. But I mean, that's everything in life, right? There's always going to be somebody that tries to
yeah.
turn it into the rich man's game. So
Well, I think kayaks kind of went from both ends of the spectrum.
mhm.
Because kayak was just a cheap way for like uh, way back in the day, they were a cheap way for like surf fishers to get their baits out at sea or whatever. These little sit inside kayaks, and nobody really used them for fishing.
Mhm.
And then Hobie came along and made a $3,000 kayak. Like
Mhm.
what? you know,
Mhm.
because when that came out, I'm like, I can get a John boat for $3,000 with the trailer and trolling motor, and
Mhm. And I think
um,
I think what it is there's like I tell people this all the time because I get a lot of questions about it, and I get a lot of people who say, I could buy a John boat, and you can, and that's great. But I think there's a point. It's like almost diminishing returns with a kayak, right? Like I love that autopilot. It's one of the coolest freaking kayaks that I own. It's got the trolling motor and the spot lock. It's 12 and a half foot long, and freaking thing's a monster, right? It's an awesome, awesome kayak. But all at the same time, the step from a pedal drive to a motor driven kayak is minuscule at best. Like I almost have more advantage in my pedal drive kayak than I do in my motor driven kayak, just because of the ability to instantaneously control whether I'm going forward or backward. And that's huge in fighting a fish and doing all that kind of stuff. But like the step from like a paddle kayak to a pedal driven kayak is like it's like going to the moon, man. I mean, it's just a completely different fishing experience. And so I tell people all the time, with all these modern kayaks and all this stuff that they've got going on, like there's a middle ground of kayaks that exist. They're in that $2,000 to $3,000 range that really give you something that is more affordable, more mobile, more user friendly, laid out for fishing than say a John boat. But all at the same time, you're not dropping $7,000 on a piece of plastic, because there's giant pieces of rotomotive plastic. And so
yep,
I don't know, I've fished in a John boat. I've done the John boat thing. But I'll tell you this much: if you have a person fishing a John boat and then fishing a kayak, they're going to want to fish in that kayak every single time, because it's like your own little spaceship. You know what I mean? You got all your stuff right there, and it's like it's so customizable, and you can do so many cool things. And then also it's light. Like my little 10 foot Old Town, man. I can take that thing and just scoot everywhere. And if I run up to a beaver dam, jump out and throw the thing over the beaver dam, get back in and start scooting around. So it's really cool.
right. I apologize for that, folks. That was operator error on my part there. That comment. StreamYard and YouTube aren't mixing right now, so I had to open my YouTube up. That's the reverb you heard. Um, because it shows people watching, but I wasn't seeing any comments in the StreamYard box, and I usually do. So we have Adventures in Bass Fishing with TK Heaven. Thanks for joining us. That Mosier Boy and Ernest Cole Fishing in the house with us tonight. Grant McIntosh is in the house with us tonight. So thanks everybody for tuning in. If you just tuned in, this is Alex Rudd of Alex Rudd Fishing. You can check out his YouTube channel. I'm sure a lot of you have. Alex is quite a bit bigger than me. Me and Alex met at the Bassmaster Classic a couple of years ago, and I got to talking to him. And then one of the things I've always had, like, I don't have many YouTube gifts, and I tell everybody the one YouTube gift I have is I'll walk up and talk to anybody. You got 1 million subscribers, I'll walk up and talk to you. Worst thing you can say is no.
Yep.
So. But if you haven't checked out Alex, we're talking a little kayaks right now because I got a kayak last year and my goal is to enter some of these tournaments. But if you haven't checked out Alex or any of his lives or any of his tackle videos, I can tell you something about Alex Rudd. If bass fishing is your thing, this gentleman here is an absolute wealth of knowledge on bass fishing, tactics, tackle, and things you can use. So, Alex, we were just talking about limited amount of things that you can carry on a kayak. You're a lot more limited on a kayak than you are your boat, especially. So I'm thinking a maximum of 4 rods that's what mine's set up for. I've got 2 built in, and then I've got 2 on the yak pack. All right, so 4 rods. If you're only carrying 4 rods in a kayak tournament, what are you carrying? What's your setup? What are you rigging them with?
So that's a very open-ended question, and I love the question because we can go down a rabbit hole with it. It honestly all depends on the time of year that I'm fishing. This time of year, right now with everything that I've kind of got going on and what I know my fish should be doing, I'm going to have a cranking rod, I'm going to have a chatterbait rod, an A-rig rod, and a spinning rod. Because with that, I can do a lot of different things, right? I can get away with a lot of different things. And for the most part, if I'm going to slow down and I'm going to drag something, I'm usually going to drag it on a spinning rod. But like when we start moving more into summer, though, that's where I start to diversify a little bit. I'll have a bladed jig rod that I can throw a crankbait or some other moving style bait on. I'll have, a topwater / frog rod that can do a little bit of everything. Definitely a spinning rod because I throw a wacky rig a ton in the spring and in the summer. And then probably some kind of like jig / Texas rig rod, something like that. But it really has everything to do with the time of year that I'm fishing. And, I've kind of started to branch out. I used to take 4 rods on the kayak with me at all times. That was like it. Like I said, I was more rudimentary. And now I've got where I've kind of adjusted my black pack and adjusted some things that I can get up to 7 rods on my kayak if I want to. But even then, sometimes it's just freaking excessive. It's like there's almost too much going on. But yeah, four rods, for me, it just all depends on the time of year. Like, what am I looking at? You know what I mean? And I'm kind of lucky because I get to look at a lot of different things all year long. We got deep, clear reservoirs and we've got shallow, muddy rivers. We've got grass-filled lakes and we've got rocky lakes. I mean, there's just all kinds of different stuff. So just depending on what I'm fishing is going to kind of depend on what I'm bringing with me.
Okay. Now, what would you line those with? Your cranking rod,
as far as like pound test. So my cranking rod's 10 pound all the time. 10 pound fluorocarbon. I've been using Strike King fluorocarbon for the past couple of years now. They kind of got me in on that. Right before it released last year, they sent me a bunch and I started building a lot of confidence in that. So some 10 pound fluorocarbon. My spinning rod is going to be 20 pound braid to a 10 to 8 pound fluorocarbon leader. Bladed jig rod and jig rod, or pretty much anything else that's kind of in that general, kind of general purpose setup, 15 pound fluorocarbon, and then like frogs and topwaters, 40 to 50 pound braid. And I'm going to start experimenting more this year with 40 pound braid on a frog rod because I do a lot of open water frog fishing. And so I don't really see a ton of advantage to throwing like 65 pound braid unless I'm in a mat or something. So.
Okay. I don't do a ton of frog fishing. I don't do a ton of cranking fishing. Unfortunately, where we live, the water around us, the local water especially, is very high pressure, especially
Mm.
in the spring and summer. It's got a lot of not only anglers but kayak paddlers and paddle boarders and that thing. No jet skis are allowed on my local one, luckily.
That is
But
lucky. That's pretty cool.
yeah, we have a 20 horsepower. It has a 20 horsepower limit. My local one. And it's like the fourth or fifth biggest lake in the state, not counting Erie. I don't count Erie. Erie's going to be obviously bigger than everything. So if y'all are wondering, talking to Rudd in the past, if y'all are wondering why I giggled there at his wacky worm statement, is I know for a fact Rudd absolutely despises the fairy wand.
Hate it. Hate it.
But have you noticed with the, I guess, greater appreciation, the more popular, especially last year when there wasn't much anybody else could do, but the more popular fishing and the more people that started fishing, have you noticed that you have to use these finesse tactics more now?
Absolutely. And, especially in a kayak period, but across the board, man, I spent more time with a wacky rig rod in my hand, a spinning rod in my hand last year than I ever did before in my life. It's been an immense amount of pressure, like to the point where, I was showing up to the boat ramp in the middle of the week. For you guys that don't know, I'm a teacher. And so I got all summer off. And then plus we had all the time off because of the pandemic and all that crap. And so I had a lot of time off, right? I had nearly 7 months off where I had got paid to just go hang out. And so I was showing up to the boat ramp, man, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, 7 o'clock in the morning, and the boat ramps were full with people, new anglers, old anglers, everybody in between. And so, dude, like I had to really, really adjust how I fished a lot of the stuff that I love to fish. And I had to go really, really finesse. The kayak tournament that I won this past year was on a wacky rig. Every fish I caught was on a wacky rig. A lot of the fish that I caught when I got back from Ben's, picked up the wacky rig and went and started throwing it, man. I just had to really just adjust how I fished. And a lot of it was to go more and more finesse, and it's staying that way, on into the winter now. Even as cold as it is, there's still a ton of anglers out, and like we're having to start to break out the really, really small flat sides, the balsa baits, drag the Ned rig a lot more. I mean, dude, it is definitely not what it used to be as far as baits you can effectively fish and catch a ton of fish on, man. I'm really starting to have to adjust and figure these fish out in different ways.
No. Welcome to my world, Rudd.
I'm sure, dude. So tell me about like Pennsylvania water and all that. Like what I've fished very limitedly in Pennsylvania, and it was southern Pennsylvania. It was very muddy water there. Like tell me about kind of how your lake's set up.
Well, the area I'm in, we have deep, clear lakes. The local lake here is in Bucks County. It's called Knock'em-Mixon, and that's a deep, clear reservoir. It's they dammed up a creek and made a lake, and so that's the area that I'm in, the lake there. And then we have a lot of electric motor only lakes, small lakes, big ponds, really.
Mm-hmm.
There's one here, Towhee, that I've taken because it's a good place to take the kayak because it's got a ton of cover and it's basically just like an L you can go around, but it's got an invasive aquatic vegetation species like a Japanese water chestnut or something, lily pad.
Mm-hmm.
But the roots on that thing, about it.
Mm-hmm.
The roots on that thing are about that big around, and you constantly get hung up, and you got to paddle over there. And I've had to take out my knife and saw through the thing a couple of times to get my hook back.
That's crazy.
But mostly in our area now, trout fishing is a lot more popular here. There are bass anglers here, but the bass we have in abundance here, of course, would be smallmouth. We have better smallmouth. Well, I say we have better smallmouth fishing because we have more areas for smallmouth. But the areas in Tennessee that you have smallmouth, considering one of the lakes holds the world record, I can't say it's better than the quality of smallmouth.
Yeah.
But yeah, we most of my water here is the lakes that you go to is they took like Tahican Creek, built a dam and made a reservoir. So most of them are clear water with rocky bottoms. We don't have a lot of grass except on the weed edges here. So it's high pressure in this area. That's the biggest thing is the high pressure here. So the finesse, it's finesse all the way, and then of course the river. Now the river fishing is pretty good here for smallmouth. We have in my area we have the Lehigh, and then a little bit further we have the Delaware. You got to be careful on that. Delaware get away from you, it kill you quick. That's the water that I'm looking at. So a lot of finesse stuff. Like I said, I spend. Matter of fact, I spend so much time with the fairy one in my hand that I still haven't really gotten good at a bait caster. it's still a work in practice, because it's just not effective.
It's not something you do. Yeah,
I can go spend all day cranking. Somebody told me just. Somebody told me just take it out with you one day and only take it and just all day long use it. I go, yeah, but finesse is such a necessity here. Dude, if I don't get a bite in 2 or 3 hours, that's I don't know if I've got that kind of patience. I at least want to catch a fish when I go,
Yeah, dude. No, I get it. Yeah, I tell you, this year specifically, man, there's been a lot of days I've gone out and just got skunked. I mean, it's just been, and I'm not afraid to admit it. I put it on camera. It's like the video I put out the other day, man. I caught 2 squeakers. And I mean, it's just the way it is right now, man. It is so, so, so tough. And it's driving me crazy just how tough it actually is. But I don't know, man. I mean, I think the more and more, it's awesome that there's more and more people getting into the sport, and it's awesome to see the sport grow. But all at the same time, it's like you just want to tell some of these people, "Hey, go back home. Like, stay at the house. Give me my lake for a couple hours by myself." But I don't know, man. Cranking's fun. Cranking's something. It really does take some. It's a confidence thing. There's not a lot of guys. There's a lot of guys around here that crank because it's kind of just something we do, right? But there's not a lot of people that when I start talking about crankbait fishing, it's like something that they are very in tuned with. And a lot of it just has to do with the simple fact that they either don't live in an area where it's very prominent, or they've never looked at it or learn the technique to the point of which they find confidence in, like, hey, if they see a certain set of conditions, they go, I can go crank a crankbait and I can catch them doing this. You know what I mean?
We got a question in the comments on kayak. It says, what is the best way to keep your kayak in place when you get onto a school of fish?
So it just depends. There's really kind of 2 ways
Alex,
you can do
it. Take that one?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Hello? It looks like Alex is having some technical difficulties again. Give him a moment to get back in here. Hey, you back?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. You know what? I think it might be StreamYard because I went over to YouTube and I could hear you on YouTube. You're coming in on the live, so StreamYard might be giving us a fit tonight. So if it does that again, that's what I'll do. I'll just go over to YouTube and we'll wait on the the buffer, the time buffer.
Sounds good to me. But yeah, works. So I saw the question, but anyway, so like kayak, as far as fishing in a kayak and holding yourself on a spot, there's two ways to do it. If you got a pedal drive, obviously, you can use your pedal drive just to kind of monitor where you're at. And that's usually what I do in my pedal drive kayak. I'll just kind of stay where I need to stay, either, pushing back, pushing forward, or you can use an anchor. A lot of people will drop an anchor down. An anchor is going to hold you in place and do a really good job of kind of keeping you on that school of fish. But that's really the two biggest ways for me to do it. And I always take visual markers, something I learned from old school fishing, like old school fishing. Back in the day, we didn't have the best mapping in the world and all that kind of stuff. And, I come from learning to fish from my dad. I've been fishing since I was a little tiny boy. And things we used to do is we would be like, okay, you see that tree? You see that house? Okay, you got to cast in between that tree at that house and at that bridge pile line. And so, take mental markers about where you're at so that you can stay in a spot and stay around that spot. You can also just carry a buoy with you, a marker buoy. Drop that marker buoy down and just keep yourself near that marker buoy, and that'll help you to kind of know where you need to be to stay off of that school and stay in the zone that you need to stay in to put fish in the boat.
Right. Yeah, well, I haven't. Alex is going to be a much better answer to this, so I'll let him take that. On mine, I have an anchor system with an anchor trolley that I've yet to put on. I've got to put that on. It's just I can't get into my garage right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I have that because I have I have a lightning strike. That's what my kayak is, and I have the lightning strike has the Mirage drive, so I don't have reverse.
Gotcha.
I have to use a paddle. So it's the fin type.
Yeah. Does it not have the reverse tab that you can pull and it puts it into reverse?
No, because Hobie still has the patent on that one. That patent hasn't run out. So
okay.
Like the Pelican Catch 130 and the Lightning Strike, they're able to use that style now and call it a different drive. Like it's called Hydra Drive in the Pelican and Freedom Drive. Lightning calls it the Freedom Drive. It's a Mirage drive. It's the exact same Mirage drive that Hobie came out, or same design that Hobie came out with, but Hobie's patent run up on the original design. So now, and that's that's like anything else. Once a technology ages some and is allowed to be used by the public, price comes down. So that benefits the consumer every time. Competition will benefit the consumer every time. So so now that's the reason you got companies like Pelican and Lightning that can make a more affordable alternative to the Hobie.
Yeah, I'm waiting for a kayak that kind of hits that ridiculous low price point, like that $1,200 to $1,500 range, but has the features of $3,000 and $4,000 kayaks. And I know they can do it. I mean, the thing is, the only reason kayaks are as expensive as they are is because the market's cornered. They know that people are willing to purchase them. It's just like boats. And so I wish that we could see a kind of switch in the market away from really expensive bass boats and aluminum boats and kayaks back to a more affordable, kind of price point. But it's hard. I mean, it's an American-made product. Most of them are, all made in America with American-made parts. And so we're paying for Americans to have jobs, but all at the same time, it's hard on the bank account to go drop $3,000 on a piece of plastic. So
it is. I want to know. Now, it is easier on the bank account than to try to go drop $90,000 on a piece of fiberglass.
Amen to that. Man, I tell you, bass boats are just kind of they're a little bit, they're a little bit just out of this world at this point, man. What's crazy though is people keep buying them. I went to the bass boat dealership where I get my boat serviced at, and I have an aluminum boat, and so it's a lot more affordable to run, a lot more affordable to own. Just everything about it's more affordable, but still at the same time, it's a very expensive boat. But I was talking to the dealership up there, and they have, I think he said 7 Skeeter FXRs, the 21 foots with 250s, totally loaded out. They've got 7 of them on back order. And so that means they have nearly $700,000 in boats on back order because those things are roughly $95,000 to $98,000 a piece.
Right.
So people keep
That's
buying them.
ridiculous. Yeah. And well, you know, and especially like there are some, well, definitely there are some tournament anglers who've made enough fishing to do that, but you know, sponsorship helps out a lot too. And
Yeah.
but that's what I was talking about earlier with kayaks and these kayak tournaments. You were saying it was more of a more pure form of fishing
Mm-hmm.
than these tournaments. But as you watch these tournaments now, and I'm not begrudging the guy. You still got to find the fish. You still got to catch them.
Mm-hmm.
You still got to get the weight at the end of the day. But now they've got underwater cameras and live scoping, and it's like playing a video game. Okay, they're 100 yards over there. They're 14 feet deep. And I'm not begrudging those guys, but me and you both know, growing up in the same area, I went to Watts Bar is the lake we would share. That would
Mm-hmm.
kind of meet in the middle. We went to Watts Bar over on Jackson Island every summer as a kid.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So growing up there, me and you both know that a couple of these old timers, these local boys, if they had the money to compete in these tournaments, they could take a Carolina rig and flat out whip you.
Oh yeah.
They just look for the birds and some structure and a Carolina rig or a Texas rig and just hammer them all day long and throw them in the boat. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
They know the lake, they know the structure, they know the pattern. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think
And it,
kayak fishing brought kind of that tournament feeling to the locals.
yeah. Yeah. And I think it just, for me, I don't like tournament basketball fishing culture. If that's something like you say, man, if people want to do it, let them do it. I love it. I'm having Bradley Hallman on the live stream tomorrow. He's a pro bass fisherman, does the tournament thing. I just don't enjoy the culture. You know what I mean? Specifically, I guess the culture around here. I'm not really sure how it is on the pro side of things, but it's just kind of crappy. And I enjoy the culture around kayak tournament fishing a lot more. I enjoy just the structure of the tournaments. Everything about it is more. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't even say it's laid back, that there's not competitiveness to it, because we are very competitive. I mean, and I'm a very competitive person. I love to compete. But all at the same time, it's like when I'm in a kayak tournament, like that almost intense, like crazy pressure that these bass boat guys get on them, and like this, like just all the time, constant like this, like show up at the boat ramp and you ask somebody how they're doing and they look at you like you got four heads. It doesn't exist in a kayak tournament. When I'm fishing kayak tournaments, I pedal right up to guys before and just be like, hey, you got any fish? And they're like, hey, I got two or three. Just have a conversation with them. Where if you try to do that in a bass boat tournament, man, they cut each other off and cuss each other out and get in fights at the boat ramp and all kinds of crazy stuff. It
Yeah,
just doesn't. It's
I
just
actually
nuts.
saw a video not too long ago of Roland Martin when he was younger, saying how he learned his lesson about that. He would get in these tournaments and he'd find this spot, this real good spot. He did want to share a spot. He
Mm-hmm.
said, my spot. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, he learned a lesson the hard way. This local guy pulled a gun on him.
Mm-hmm.
Roland Martin, he got all mad because this guy was fishing in his spot. And he had this gaff or something in his boat, and he took the gaff out and was threatening the guy, and the guy took out a Colt 411 and was threatening back, and
Yeah.
he but he said he had to come to understand, and like I see it in that pro angler. Like I said, I grew up with these guys. I have an appreciation for what they do, but
Mm-hmm.
the understanding they need to come to is that local guy who's out there on a Saturday afternoon, because that's all he's got. He's been at work all freaking day long. He's been waiting all week to go fishing.
Mm-hmm.
He's been
Mm-hmm.
waiting all week to go fishing on a Saturday. This is public water that his fishing license and his taxes have paid to maintain. There is no your spot.
Mm-hmm.
On public water, there is no your spot. That
Yeah.
guy was there. Go somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
So, but
Mm-hmm.
they get so wrapped up in this. Okay, well, that's where the fish are, and I got to win this tournament. I'm sorry for you. I don't, I don't know what you.
Well, it's the old
So,
adage, you add money to anything and it turns people into crazies. I mean, like,
yeah,
it doesn't matter what it is, man. You get money involved. Money, sex, and drugs, that's the three things that seems to make the world go round nowadays. And it's also the things that make people do crazier crap than they would do any other time in their life. So,
somebody told
I,
me this
go
this
ahead.
was all great till the yuppies got involved.
Yeah. Right. Right. And I think that's what kind of something else is cool about the kayak world, is that like a lot of the people who kayak fish, they really have an understanding and a love for public land, public water. You know what I mean? And I think it's because they use it in a way that not everybody else uses it. They're hauling their kayaks back into these crazy obscure places and floating rivers, and they're doing things and touching things and seeing things that not many people see. And that's just another thing I love about the whole kayak fishing culture and all that stuff. But tournament fishing is very interesting to me. It's something that a lot of people love to do. It's obvious. It's something that people get really hopped up about, and there's people who've made careers out of it. And, for me, I just have no interest in it. And I never did. I fished a few tournaments when I was younger. And when I was, a kid, I would fish tournaments with my dad, and that's the thing is a lot of people say, well, if you've never done it, how do you know you don't like it? Well, I've done it. I've tasted it. I've done the tournament thing. I've fished enough tournaments to know, especially boat tournaments. It's something I don't really enjoy that much. And so, that's why I kind of just do the kayak thing.
Take care, Kayak Fishing 180. Have a good day. Start this.
Yeah, he's in Australia. That dude's from Australia. Yeah.
Oh, you recognize him? It's been a while since I've seen him. Oh well, let's talk a little more about fishing here. I had some things jotted down. I gotta take notes. After the COVID, I think I had brain damage. I caught that crap, man. The headaches were terrible, but okay. All right, here we go. Now, if somebody wants to get involved, like me, somebody wants to get involved in some of these local kayak tournaments, where would you recommend they go?
Facebook, man. I don't have a Facebook, but Facebook is where a lot of the operational stuff for our local deal takes place. And so you can go find clubs on there. You can find different people, like different kayak clubs. So 10 Cat is the local one for me, and they do, pretty much everything on Facebook. They run a little Facebook page. They do some stuff on Instagrams the same way. And so that's kind of the easiest way. Just literally go in, type in kayak fishing club, and you know what I mean? And it would be amazing how many Facebook knows to auto generate things in your area. So it'll auto generate some kayak clubs for you. You can also get on Tourney and find you a monthly tournament. That's probably the easiest way to get into a tournament kind of scene or tournament filling kind of situation in a kayak, where you can get some practice, putting fish on the board and taking pictures of fish and those kinds of things. And so you can enter like a KBF monthly tournament or something like that. And what that is where the tournament lasts from the 1st of the month to the 30th or the 31st of the month. And you've got all month to catch 5 fish, and you catch the 5 best fish that you can. And I think that's a really good format for new anglers, because you got some money on the line. You kind of got that pressure of tournament fishing, but you got all month to practice that skill of putting a fish on the board, taking a picture of it, and all that kind of stuff. But definitely social media. Tourney, get the app Tourney. That's going to be the best way to find monthly tournaments. And then just get on social media and search for local clubs and reach out to the club like manager or the tournament director and be like, hey, I'm looking to fish in a kayak tournament. Can you send me your rules, your regulations, and your schedule? And they'll be more than happy to oblige. I would assume.
Tourney is where Chad does his tournaments for kayak bass fishing, KBF.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he does all his on Tourney. So yeah, so he does all his. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear.
Yeah, he does all his on Tourney, and that's the KBF monthlies are on there for every state.
And what would be the starting price for the monthly?
I believe most of those are $30. I think they're like 30 or 40, so it's not too expensive at all. And all my local tournaments that I fish are $30 or $40. So not expensive at all. Most people, that's a couple meals out to eat or a couple cups of coffee at most coffee shops nowadays, and you can be entered to win be entered to fish in a tournament, man. And if you do well, you can win a lot of money, especially with those monthly tournaments. Because if you get 200 or 300 guys in a monthly tournament that have all got $30 in a pot, man, you can have you a really good payout.
That's $70 cheaper than any trip to the tackle store for me.
Yeah, right.
I see a Bass Pro, I can pretty much kiss $100 goodbye.
Oh, dude, it's like, I tell people all the time, it's like as soon as I walk out the door, there should be a guy collecting $20 bills, and then about any given day of the week, there should be someone else standing there collecting $100 bills because there's going to be something I need to buy or something that's got to be fixed, and then plus all my fishing stuff. So,
all right. Now, what's besides obviously a kayak and fishing gear? What are things that let's say the rules that you need to have? The PFD.
So your big ones for absolute must-haves in your kayak is a PFD. You got to have a personal flotation device. Obviously, check your rules and your regulations, but I'm sure that can either be a traditional, just life jacket or a kayak fishing life jacket. I wear an auto inflate just because of maneuverability. It's easier for me to move in my auto inflate. And so I wear an auto inflate, but check your rules. Obviously, know the rules. Ask the tournament director, hey, can I have a copy of the rules if they've not provided you one yet? Because there may be rules about where you can fish, where you can't fish, certain things you can use, you can't use, blah, 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 so on and so forth. So know the rules. And then you're going to need some kind of measuring device. And we were talking about that earlier. Most tournaments are going to take the catch board, and catch is almost going to be the guarantee. There's a lot of tournaments that aren't taking the hog trough now. Just because of some of the kind of crap that came out of the whole hog trough thing. But catch board, that's KETCH. You got to have a tournament approved catch board. But honestly, other than that, man, it's super simple. You show up. You got to make sure you have your identifier, which is something that's super important for kayak tournaments. So they'll give you a unique identifier. Usually, it's generated on TourneyX. And it's a unique number or ID code to you. And so if that isn't in the picture with your fish, you can't prove that that fish was caught within either the time limit of the tournament or whatever it is. And so you got to have that identifier. And that can be wrote on the back of your hand. They make little identifier like protection cards, just anything, just as long as that identifier is in there. But really, those three things, your identifier, your PFD, and your measuring board, tournament approved measuring board, man, other than that, there's not really a ton to get into the whole kayak fishing game.
I believe you also need a light and flag, don't you?
Yeah, it depends on what tournament you're fishing. I know like the monthly thing, as long as you're fishing during the day and you're not breaking state law by not having that light on your kayak, you don't have to have the light on your kayak. All the ones that I fish in, you do have to have a light and a flag up at all times. So that is something else that you need. You are correct. So,
No, yeah, I think it would just be a good idea. You're pretty low to the water. You want to be seen.
yeah, exactly. And I tell people all the time, it would be amazing to me if they couldn't see that 13-foot lime green floating boat that I'm in, but having the flag up there is a good idea. You know what I mean? And I usually wear bright clothes too, just so it's just an extra level of, hey, I'm here, I'm floating around, don't run over me. You know what I mean?
Mine is stripe blue, they call it, slate blue. So, hey, if it's bluebird sky days, maybe,
Maybe you're right.
Alex, are you fishing any KBF tourneys this year? Ernest Cole Fishing asks.
Probably not. There's nothing that's coming close enough to justify me, going and fishing it. I believe the closest one was Lay Lake, and I just don't have. So I broke my leg. I'm sure a lot of people know I broke my leg back in November, and so I had to take a lot of sick days and PTO days from where I broke my leg. So I've not got a lot backed up. And then plus being a teacher, I need to be in the classroom as much as I can. I don't like leaving my kids. So I'm a weekend warrior unless I'm hitting like a break. And usually if I hit a break, whether it be spring break or whatever else I got coming up, I've already got some kind of fishing trip planned, and I don't really want to be kayak tournament fishing. I kind of save that just for the local deal. So I may fish some monthlies, but other than that, I don't think there's anything that's close enough. Like, I don't want to drive 8 or 9 hours to go fish a kayak tournament when I can just go make videos and do the stuff that I like doing. So.
No, and I was asked this question the other day. Well, I guess kayak fishing could actually be an answer to it. But I wrote it down to ask you, what would you consider the best change in fishing since we were kids?
The best change in fishing since we were kids. I'll be honest. I think it has to just be the almost upgrade in fishing lines, right? Like, we all started like with mono, and then came along fluorocarbon. Fluorocarbon wasn't great because it was real brittle and they really hadn't got the technology right yet. And then came along super lines, and super lines weren't real great because they really hadn't got the technology right yet. And it's like the technology on almost all fishing line across the board has got a lot better, as well as like hooks. Technology with hooks, materials to make the hook are a lot better than they used to be. And I think that those two things, when you really think about it, that's your connection point to the fish. And if one of those two things fails, you lose the fish. And so I think the advances in fishing line and fishing hooks is something that is a lot better now than when we were kids.
See, I went, I'd probably agree with you if it was if they just asked me equipment. I think it's this. That's my answer.
Oh, social media.
Mm-hmm. I think it's this.
Yep.
I think that's a double-bladed sword sometimes, or a double-bladed knife, because I think it's the best change and the worst change some days. But when we were kids, if I can get this off, we all wanted to be him.
Yep, Bill Dance. Yeah.
Now anybody can.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, if you're willing to work for it, man.
I mean, he's kind of the godfather. He probably inspired us all. But now with social media, YouTube, anybody can open a YouTube channel, go out fishing, film yourself, boom. I mean, we have, you're trading right along. I think you and a couple others are probably in that next, at your growth rate, you're probably in that next stage of people to reach that 100K or that kind of influence. And I know there's a lot of flack both ways toward this group, but with this technology, we got 4 kids who never fished a tournament in their life that are millionaires that control this industry now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And all they did is went out and filmed and filmed and filmed and filmed,
Well, what they did was they tapped into a market that was untapped. Because when you really look at fishing, I would say 99% of people cannot, in any form, shape, or fashion, identify with tournament bass fishing. Their experience of fishing is fishing with their papaw, fishing with their brother, their dad, their mom, whoever it is that took them fishing. And it's a bank fishing experience, or it's a small pond fishing experience, or it's something like that. I mean, that's most of bass fishing. When you really look at the people who've purchased bass fishing equipment, most 80 plus percent, because I did look up these statistics one time, 80 plus percent don't own any form of boat or kayak. They fish from the bank. And it's just, what the Googans did, was they gave a voice and they gave a identification and created a community around the average angler. And they did a damn good job of it. And you can't take anything away from that, and that's just kind of I'm trying to build my own community. And that's what's really cool, I think, more about social media than anything, is not that anybody can be famous, which they can, but I think it's that you can grow the community that you want to see. And if that's a community of being a douchebag and people want to, people hate on you and you hate on everybody, then build that community. Because guess what? Whether we like it or not, there's a group of people out there who just thrive on that kind of stuff, right? But like, what's awesome about this is you can build a community of people, and then you can spread that idea of that community and make the community bigger. And my community is just being real and being me, and not really doing the things that I'm supposed to do to further myself in the fishing industry, but do it how I want to do it and how I enjoy it. And obviously there's a large segment of people, 40,000 and growing at this point, that identify with what I got going on. You know what I mean? And so it's cool, man. I mean, social media is a fascinating thing. YouTube's a fascinating thing. Content creation's a fascinating thing. And it's even a journey that I'm still kind of trying to wade my way through. I am by no means an expert, but I definitely just enjoy the process more than anything. I find happiness in this. You know what I mean? Talking to you, doing my own podcast, making my videos, just doing everything out there in the industry. I just really, really like it. And so, that's the main reason I do, is because I enjoy it.
Yeah, I think, like I grind at this a lot harder than some people. I know some people who make one crappy video and they're off to the races. And more power to them. I try not to hate on people. A little jealous, not to, but the good does outweigh the bad, because I've realized you're talking about community, and to me, it seems like we've kind of built a community around each other. Like I got people I don't know from Adam now that I wouldn't have never known from Adam, that I talk to, weekly. Even you, like, I mean, you come on my show and excuse me, pardon me, coffee doesn't want to make its way down. You came on my, you come on my show. This is the second time you've been on my channel on live, and I join, not on live, but I go and watch yours with Ben weekly sometimes, and I aggravate you on Instagram probably about once a week, just to shoot back and forth. And people think we know each other. We do a little bit. We're not, we're in the same community, but we grew up an hour from each other. We're not in the same age bracket. We might have fished on the same lakes, but now we talk regularly. Before social media, we wouldn't have known each other from Adam. Me and you would have never crossed paths in our lives before social media. And I think that applies, if I'm remembering correctly, I think that applies especially for you, because I do believe Benjamin Nowak was the best man at your wedding.
He was. And I met my best friend.
He's from Michigan.
Yeah, he's from Michigan.
Did you know Ben before this?
No, I did not. I met Ben at ICAST 2017, and he was actually a fan of my channel. And we got to talking and figured out who each other was, because we had both watched each other's videos. And Ben Nowak was my best friend in this whole entire world and the best man at my wedding. And I met him through YouTube. First time I ever went to Michigan, I flew into Detroit and never met the guy other than at ICAST. And I stayed a week at his house and went fishing in Michigan and gained a friend for the rest of my life. And it was all because of YouTube. Tyler Anderson, one of my best friends, man, I met him through YouTube. There's a lot of people that I've known and got to know through YouTube. And that's another cool thing about it, man, is it is nothing but opportunity. Like tomorrow we're having Bradley on, and for you guys, Bradley Hallman, he's a BASS, used to be a BASS pro, then he went to FLW, won some stuff FLW, then now he's trying to qualify again for the BASS. And I'd have never talked to that guy if it hadn't have been for a relationship that Ben built with him. And the only reason that Ben built a relationship with him is because he did social media work for him. And so it's just really, really cool. Rick Patry, owner of Monster Bass, the same way. Rick is a really good friend of mine, and Rick has given me so many cool opportunities, and Monster Bass has given me so many cool opportunities. And I met him through, again, YouTube. And YouTube gave me opportunities that not everybody will get in their lifetime. And it's just really, really cool to see the whole thing grow like it has. It just is an awesome, awesome process.
Yeah, and it's also pretty good learning tool. Like there are a lot of um, well, the first person I ever subscribed to, you actually know. I call him the godfather of YouTube fishing, Fluke Master,
Oh,
Gene
Gene.
Jensen.
Yep.
Yeah, and then like I met him at the classic that year, same year I met you. You were both with Bonafide, and he seems like a great guy. Gene does, and but
Don't hey, don't
you,
don't don't blow his head up anymore. Gene don't need that. uh,
noted, uh, but you and well, you after him, obviously. Like I said, he was the first I subscribed to. He was kind of like the pioneer of this back
mm-hmm,
when it was just Mystery Tackle Box was the only game in town, and people
mm-hmm.
were doing all the slams and stuff for them. But I call him the pioneer of this. But and then you later, but you two, especially, you say you grew up and nobody took you fishing.
Mm-hmm.
My grandparents took me. That's how I got into it. Same sad stories. A lot of the other kids in that Appalachian area. I didn't know my dad growing up,
Mm-hmm.
but now YouTube is this. People who want to get into it, or they see these kids. I call them kids. They're in their late 20s now, but back when they started, they were kids, the goo guns or whatever. People who want to get into it, like, well, how do I do this? What's a Texas rig? What's a Carolina rig? Can YouTube? You've got all sorts of videos where you explain it. Gene Jensen, Fluke Master's got all sorts of videos where he explained it. What was it? Teach the world to fish. Uh, you can learn anything you want to know on YouTube now.
Anything, man. Anything. Like I'm learning how
So
to
it's not
smoke
only
meat
just
off
a
YouTube.
community. Yeah. Yeah. You got a YouTube that, man? You're from Tennessee. You should be ashamed of yourself. We're the
Well,
barbecue capital of the world.
well, it's one of those things is like when I got into it, I didn't know like the temperatures for things. And so I get on there and just like look at everybody's mind and learn that part of it. You know what I mean? Like I know the meat. I love meat. It's just I got to figure out all the nuancy details of it. But it's just like, dude, just like you say, man, like I knew absolutely nothing about setting up my smoker. And I looked up a video with the specific name of my smoker, and there was like a whole series of videos of how to set up your smoker, how to break your smoker in. And like I learned it from YouTube. You know what I mean? And it's like, and what's also cool, especially about fishing, is you can see so many different perspectives. Now, there's a lot of guys out there, they don't know nothing about what they're talking about. I mean, there's a lot of stupid ideas, but then there's a lot of really, really great, unique ideas on how to approach different things. Because my approach to a body of water is different than your approach, than is different than somebody else's approach. And it's just like, you look at any form of bass fishing. You got John Cox, who's shallow water aluminum rig guy that wants to go push his boat up into inches of water. And then you've got like a Brandon Polinick or a Jacob Wheeler who's a professional at using their electronics. You got me. I want to go push my boat up into inches of water and flip and frog, and that's what I'm good at. I'm good at cranking. And then you got Ben, who's a Great Lakes guy that's out there using all those electronics, graphing, doing all kinds of awesome stuff like that. And so it's just, you get to see so many different perspectives and learn things from all those different perspectives. And I think if that's one huge piece of advice I can give any new angler or anybody getting into it, is like be willing to listen to a lot of different things and then go try a lot of different things, because you don't know unless you listen. You got to be a lifelong learner and listen to all the different things people have to say about all kinds of different subjects.
Yeah. And and not just like I watched your part of it. I came in at the end of it there, but I was watching your live last week with Mikey Balls and Ben, and I didn't know the other gentleman. I forgot his name.
Yeah, Judson, he's
The
a
other guy you
guide.
had on panel.
Yeah,
He's a guide,
yeah, he's from North
but
Carolina.
and you kind of get you saying boxed into this like Ben. He is all bass. If
Mm-hmm.
it ain't a bass, it doesn't cross the line, you know. I'm a multi-species guy, so YouTube is definitely, because if I just fish bass up here, I get bored pretty quick
Mm-hmm.
because bass fishing up here isn't as stellar as it is in other places. Smallmouth, we do have one. You know, if you ever come up here for bass, it would be smallmouth, and we do have one of the best smallmouth rivers in the world. You know, people would, I would say in numbers, it beats Del Hollow. I don't know about in size or quantity because people will obviously say, I will say Del Hollow. Like any lake that the world record's in, that's probably never ever going to be beaten. That's a quality lake. I don't, you know, there's
Yeah.
quality genes in that lake. Uh,
Yeah.
but we have the Susquehanna River here. The
Yep.
Susquehanna River is supposed to be one of the best smallmouth rivers in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you've heard of it. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
it's also, for somebody that's fished it and been to it, I tell you, it's also a mile wide and a foot deep.
Yep.
So if shallow water's your thing, there you go. You know.
Yeah. I've always wanted to fish the
But
Susquehanna. I've
so
heard
I
a
do
lot of
some multi
awesome
species.
things about it.
So I do some multi species here too, and that's, you know, YouTube. That's how you learn. Like I moved
Mm-hmm.
up here. There's species up here I never fished for. I'd never fished for trout a day in my life till I moved up here. There's not really that many places to fish for trout in Tennessee. And growing up, I think they put them in now, like Caney Fork and places like that. But growing up, they didn't stock trout when we were kids.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I remember.
Yeah.
Um, so, and you know who? I think we talked about this before. I seen in one of your lives where maybe the last time we did live, because he can he can do a video, and he doesn't do it much anymore, but he could do a video on something I would have absolutely no interest in whatsoever, and I'll watch the entire video because he just makes it flow. Aaron Weevil, Uncut Angling.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Dude, it's that guy, man. Literally, I don't care jack crap about fishing in Canada, but that dude, I will watch every video that he puts
Right.
out. Like it is so good, man.
Mm-hmm. The production quality he makes too, you know.
Mm-hmm.
He's funny, he's entertaining, but so yeah, YouTube's definitely a big learning tool. That's my favorite thing, and the community, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
well, what are your speaking of YouTube in your channel here, and I'll put a link to Rudd's channel in the description box below here when we end this broadcast. If anybody wants to go check it out, I'm sure everybody already has. Um, what are your plans coming up? What do you got coming up
So
that we can look
Saturday's
forward to?
well, Friday, tomorrow night, I'll have Bradley Hallman on live. We'll obviously have the live like we do every night, every Friday night, 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. Be there or suck, as I always like to say and tell everybody. But yeah, that'll be fun. We're gonna have live stream. On the live stream, I always do a raffle. So I think tomorrow we're probably going to raffle off something worth some money. Last week we did $200 in AFCO gear. The week before that we did a Monster Bass bag with all my brand new Monster Bass crankbaits in it. So we'll have the raffle, do the live stream tomorrow night. That ought to be fun. Bradley's a cool dude, so we'll ask him all kinds of cool questions. Saturday, I've got a kayak tournament that I'm going to be competing in, so be on the lookout for that video. Just dropped a video Tuesday night, so you guys can go check that one out. It was a video of me pre-fishing for the kayak tournament that I'm actually going to be in Saturday. And then after that, man, I ain't got no plans. I just kind of fly by the seat of my pants most week. Where I broke my leg, I'm way backed up on like actually getting content out, and so I'm just kind of making content as it comes. But then the weekend after that, next weekend, I got a buddy coming down from New York, Serious Anglers, Bailey, that runs the Serious Anglers podcast. He's coming down that weekend to fish with me, and then we just gonna play her by ear and let it roll. So
Sounds good. We'll look forward to it.
heck yeah.
Um, let's see. Well, Rudd, if you're ever up this way, we'll have to go fishing together. But if we can travel this year again, I'm probably going to go down there. That invitation still open?
Absolutely. Anytime you want to come jump in the boat with me, I've always got an open seat.
Appreciate that. Now, I am the type of guy that will take you up on that. I'll be like, hey, where you at? I thought we were.
Let's do it, dude. I'm down. As long as I got time. As long as I got time, you're welcome, man.
Well, I appreciate that. We're going to wrap things up in about 5 minutes here. So, Rudd, I really appreciate you coming in tonight, talking with
Absolutely.
us, answering questions.
Absolutely. I appreciate you having me on.
Oh, of course. Anytime, man. Anytime. Tell Ben he's welcome too.
Absolutely. Hit him up. You just got to annoy him. Ben's one of those guys you got to annoy him into stuff.
I know the type. KBF. Hi, what's up, Snags and Drags? Hey, Snags and Drags. Thanks for coming in. Appreciate that. Always appreciate a sub. Excuse me. All right, Rudd, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Bucket list. If you can make a bucket list come true this year, fishing wise, what do you do?
So realistic goal: catch a 10-pound largemouth and a 6-pound smallmouth. That's something I've wanted to do. I've yet to do it. I've come very close on the 6-pound smallmouth. I caught a 586 last year, which if you put that into ounces, it was a 5-pound, 15-ounce smallmouth. And most people would round that up to 6, but I'm not doing it. I want a true blue. When I put her on the scale, I see a 6 and some change. And so I want to catch a 6-pound smallmouth, 10-pound largemouth. More unrealistic goal, I would love to go golden Dorado fishing in Patagonia, South America. I think that is one of those like lofty long-term goals. I would love to go catch a golden Dorado.
I've never even heard of it. That sounds awesome.
Dude, look up golden Dorado fishing on YouTube. Holy crap. That is some of the coolest stuff you will ever see, dude.
I'm going to right after this. Right?
Dude, you will be sucked into a rabbit hole. Those things, awesome.
I'm going to name drop a little bit here because you said Patagonia, and it's only because I took a class. I took one of his membership classes. Jeremy Fowler.
Okay.
He's big. He's like reaching 1 million. He does bushcraft stuff.
Okay.
But I took one of his YouTube creator classes he did for memberships. But in the course of taking his class, I kind of got to know the guy, asking questions and everything. But he won season 3 of History Channel's Alone, and he survived for 87 days in Patagonia.
I know that guy.
Like,
yeah.
63 fish and 2 birds.
Yeah. Yep.
You said Patagonia, I'd be like, you should have caught golden Dorado.
Yeah. Right.
The trout why you lost 73 pounds.
That's funny.
But golden Dorados in Patagonia.
Yes, dude, epic. Just YouTube.
I've always kind of like, I'm going to now, but I've always watched like these big peacock bass and like the Amazon. The Amazon's always the Amazon's kind of like a bucket list wish, and also a terrifying bucket wish list because it looks like everything down there is designed to kill you.
Oh, 1,000%.
I would. I mean, it sounds ridiculous to be a bucket list wish, but after the dumpster fire that 2020 was, I really would like to go down there and fish with you. If Ben's in town that week, even better. Do some collaborations. When I was down there last time, I went fishing with Billy Claybo. Fishing with Billy now. He used to be Panfish Billy. He does catfishing stuff out of Knoxville.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Just to say I've done it. I know we were talking about the tournament before, but Mike Iaconelli follows me on Twitter. Likes some of my tweets and stuff. So I bug him like once a week. Hey, when we going fishing, man? I thought, I haven't got him to commit yet, but one day, just so I can say, hey, I fish with Ike.
There you go. That'd be
I know
cool,
that
dude.
guy.
Yeah.
Him on TV. I know that guy.
Yeah.
Well, that's an hour and a half show tonight, Rudd. I think that's going to kind of wrap it up. Make sure nobody's got anything here. Nope. Same comment as last time. Really appreciate you coming on. So join us again sometime.
Absolutely, dude. I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you bringing me on. I had a good time. We'll hopefully see everybody in the comment section tomorrow night on the live stream. We'll have us some fun, and it was good to be on here, and let's do it again.
Will do. Hey, if you're still watching, I will leave Alex Rudd's information in the description box below. And as soon as I end this broadcast, I'll add the link. Be sure and check out his live tomorrow night. Who you got?
Bradley Holman.
Go check out his live tomorrow night with Bradley Holman. And I'm assuming Benjamin Nowak will be with you.
Of course, as always, his ugly rig will be down there with me.
All right, so go check him out. You can check out some videos too of him and Ben fishing together and the relationship that they've developed through this thing called YouTube. Ben looks like he's a pretty solid smallmouth fisherman from the videos I've watched.
He's an absolute stick. He is a mastermind when it comes to smallmouth.
All right. Well, that's going to wrap it up. We appreciate everybody coming in tonight. Rudd, always a pleasure.
Absolutely.
Have a good night, buddy.
See you, man.
Thanks for watching.